lead men closer to God through better understanding. The Catholic Radio and Television Apostolate, in cooperation with the St. Louis Review, presents its popular and informative panel show, Quiz a Catholic.
This is Lee Cavanaugh welcoming you once again to Quiz a Catholic, and very happy to have you with us once again on this Sunday morning. Have you seen Quiz a Catholic before? If not, suppose we take just about 20 seconds here to explain the rules of the game. First of all, we invite you viewers at home to send us subjects. They can be any one of 5 categories: objects, events, personalities, teachings, or practices. And then after we receive the subjects, we select as many as we can for use on the program. And we have a panel, and they've got 3 minutes in which to try to identify the subject just by starting off with the knowledge of what category it falls into. If you beat the panel, if they don't identify it in 3 minutes, then you receive a statue of Our Lady of Television. More information on that later on in the program. Let's right now meet the members of our Quiz a Catholic panel for today. And first of all, we're mighty happy to welcome back one of the Quiz a Catholic regular panelists. His name is Mr. Tom O'Toole. Lives in South St. Louis. He's in the real estate business. Tom, how are you this morning?
Morning, Lee. How are you?
Hey, can I ask you a personal question? I know you appear on television each week here on Quiz a Catholic. Do you watch much television at home?
Oh, yeah, I'm a regular viewer.
Well, I'm going to ask you a leading question. What's your favorite program?
The Danny Thomas Show. Is there another?
All right, I'm glad you said that, because as if you didn't know, Tom O'Toole, sitting right next to you is our special guest on Quiz a Catholic for today, Mr. Danny Thomas in person. Danny, welcome to Quiz a Catholic.
Thank you, Lee. And my favorite show is the O'Toole Show.
All right. And Quiz a Catholic, too, maybe?
Quiz a Catholic.
We're going to get along all right.
Boy, this is a mutual admiration society. Danny, it's wonderful to have you here. I know we could go on and on about your many years of success in so many fields of show business. Your Danny Thomas Show, of course, is one of the top-rated network shows right here on KMOX TV, isn't it?
Thank God.
You're happy about that. But if I can get to another point for a minute, we hear almost as much about another phase of Danny Thomas activities these days involving St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis. Tell us a little bit about that, will you, Danny?
Yes, I'm always very happy to talk about St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis. I don't want to take up the time of the audience. I want them to watch the game played, and it's quite interesting as you explained it to me before airtime. St. Jude's in a capsule is a fulfillment of a vow that I made when I was despairing of not only the mercies of my fellow man, but just about despairing of God's mercy, which I believe is the most horrible sin you can commit against God, is to despair of his mercy. And I made a vow then that if I made good in show business, which I love so very much, that I would build a shrine to St. Jude. I have made good. In the past 6 years, I have been trying to accomplish the fulfillment of that vow. I could have easily accomplished it by erecting a statue somewhere or a side altar in a church. But I decided to be more materialistic and I thought more effective by trying to heal the sick in the name of St. Jude. I don't know a better way to enshrine St. Jude than in the hearts of children who have been cured, especially of catastrophic diseases.
Well, this is a specialized type of hospital.
Yes, it's a research hospital. Hospital is hardly the word for it because beds are secondary. It's a research hospital dedicated to the fight against catastrophic diseases in children, choosing one disease at a time. Having licked that disease, then the plan is to retool like a factory, retool and change personnel and go on to another catastrophic disease. At the moment, we are fighting leukemia and its allied blood diseases. There is a disease that strikes Negroes almost primarily, and that is sickle cell anemia. There have been tons of papers written on leukemia. There hasn't been a pound of paper written on sickle cell anemia. And already at St. Jude's Laboratory in the University of Tennessee Medical School, where we're set up and working now and have been for 2 years, waiting for the completion of our building, which by God's will be at the end of this year, 1961. We'll be admitting patients around Christmas time, Lord willing. I'm hoping to be able to have the hospital completed on the Feast of St. Jude, October 28th. That's the way it looks.
Wonderful.
Anyway, we're working now. We have a fine scientist, a Japanese scientist named Takahashi, who has made a terrific inroad in the fight against sickle cell anemia. We just got the report 10 days ago. It's highly technical for me to be able to talk about it, but I do know the University of Tennessee Medical School is very thrilled about his findings, and it's all in the name of St. Jude.
Great things have come out of that promise of yours to St. Jude years ago. Huh?
Strange how I didn't fulfill that vow when I was able to, with money, right away, quick, build a side altar or even a small chapel and have people come and pray for miracles. Here we're not praying for miracles, we're trying to make them happen with scientific work, and it's just fine.
Danny, I'm going to ask you a question which sounds like I'm getting off the subject, but I think it'll bring me back. I've heard a lot of wonderful things about your mother.
My mother.
And she was active, as I understood it at one time. She used to try to help the poor, going house to house, collecting.
Well, no, my mother didn't do that
Am I mistaken?
out of altruism. She did it. But my mother had no time to do that, as my wife has time today, as for instance in the St. John's Guild, St. John's Hospital Guild in L.A., and the Mount Sinai group, to which I belong, which is a Jewish organization in hospital clinic work, and we do a lot of work like that. This was different with my mom. See, my baby brother had been bitten by a rat, and he was supposed to die. He was only 8 months old. He was in his crib in the wee hours, about 3:30 in the morning. He let out such a blood-curdling scream, and he began bleeding, and they discovered that it was on the back of his left hand, in the vein. He was bitten by a huge rat. And in those days, we didn't even have sulfa drugs. We had none of the wonder drugs we know today, and he turned a horrible color of purple, and just a little bundle. And they rushed him to the county hospital, and they drained all the blood out of his body and pumped new blood into him. And just as the blood went in, it turned black-purple again. And the doctor told my mother, he said, Mrs. Jacobs, which is our family name, he said, I'm sorry, but there's nothing we can do for this baby. He's too little. He can't fight it off, and we have nothing to give him. And so just get a little white dress for him and for burial. And I remember my mother falling on her knees and just screaming aloud in the language of her motherland, Lebanon, please, God, don't take him. Let me have him. And I promise you I'll beg pennies door to door for a year for the poor. We were on state relief at the time. And that always lives in my memory, the fact that she wanted to beg for the poor. And I always said she was the poorest of the poor. And I remember her. It's funny you should ask me that question, because it's really the crux of my fulfillment of the vow. Because I'm pretty sure I would have forgotten my vow completely, being a frail human. And I would have enjoyed the wealth and success of show business and just forgotten about it.
But you're sure carrying on her vow
Well,
of grace.
I remember her door to door for a year. I remember that babushka, silly-looking piece of cloth, kind of bluish gray. You ever see the pictures of the little Polish immigrants?
Yes.
That's about like that she looked. And she'd go take a streetcar to the end of the line and then walk back home for miles, knocking on every door, and she'd say, in that little Lebanese accent of hers, the Lebanese, the old guard cannot pronounce the letter P. It turns out B. It's always B. Instead of please, it's bleeze. And she would say, please give me Benny for the boor. I promise God. You got a lot of doors slammed in her face. Go away, gypsy, They didn't understand her, but she did it anyway. For a whole year, 365 days, she fulfilled the vow.
That's tremendous, Danny. And you now, in carrying on your work for St. Jude's down in Memphis, you're looking for folks who want to help for this too, right?
Oh, yeah, because this is a free institution, and we have no professional fundraisers. See, we don't have a staff of sharp young ladies. I wish we did.
Could we turn our mailing address over to you? And if people wanted to write to Danny Thomas, Quiz a Catholic, KMOX TV, St. Louis,
I'd
send
be
them a
honored.
donation?
I'd be honored. If every one of your viewers would send $1, I give them my personal word of honor that over 90% of that dollar will actually go to fight the disease. And I don't know of any national charity that operates on such a low percentage. And I promise you, Lee, if you can get your viewers to send you $1 apiece, they will have done a big job.
Okay, Danny, that's just Danny Thomas, Quiz a Catholic, KMOX-TV, St. Louis, Missouri. Well, listen, we're going to play our game here in a minute, but we'd like to meet a couple of other members of our Quiz a Catholic panel. Sitting right next to Danny Thomas, we have one of our regular Quiz a Catholic panelists, Mrs. Nellene Joyce. Nell, is your little daughter Maggie a TV fan yet?
Yes, well, she really made Danny's story all the more breathtaking to me, and I'm quite speechless. I'm so impressed with not only your work, but your personal interest in it. I mean, this isn't just a disinterested philanthropy. You're aware of just every progress that you make, and I think it's just wonderful.
Sure was tremendously impressive, and you can impress your daughter. If she doesn't watch the Danny Thomas show now, you can tell her I co-starred with Danny on a TV show. Okay, now, good to have you back, and good to have the fourth member of our Quiz a Catholic panel, who's Mr. Dick Mehan. He's an attorney from South St. Louis, and I know he has a lot of a few Danny Thomas fans in that family of his.
I hope so.
There's our Quiz a Catholic panel for today, and right now we're most happy to welcome as our special priest guest Father Joseph Murphy, who, by a rare coincidence, is the pastor of St. Jude's Parish in Maryland Heights, Missouri.
That's right.
Father Murphy, welcome to Quiz a Catholic.
Thanks, Lee.
Isn't that quite a coincidence? I mean, Danny Thomas, St. Jude's Hospital, and St. Jude's Parish in
I think
Maryland.
it was deliberate.
It was kind of premeditated, huh? You're from St. Louis originally,
St. Louis,
Father,
that's
aren't you?
right.
Yeah. I know. This is your first time on Quiz a Catholic.
Catholic, yes.
Well, I remember years back on the Great Crusade you were with us.
That's right.
Father, shall we go to work on the panel there? Here's the first subject of the day, one sent to us by Barbara Metzi, I believe you pronounced that, of 40 Chestnut Hill Road in Webster Groves, Missouri. It's a personality.
And this personality is Ferdinand Magellan, the first circumnavigator of the world.
And for this personality, let's start off with Nellene Joyce. Nell, you want to take it?
Is this a specific person, Lee?
Yes, ma'am, it sure is.
A deceased person?
Deceased, right.
And was this person a Catholic?
Yes.
And is this person by any chance a saint?
Not a saint. Give you a no on that, move over to Dick Mehan.
Was the person a member of the laity?
Member of the laity, yes.
A man?
Right.
Was this person famous for something he did, or some particular pattern of his life?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Dick.
And he was a good guy, I assume.
He was a good guy. No bad guy.
Was he in any, did he have a title or some commission of some type?
Title or commission, I think we'd have to say no to that. Move over here to Tom O'Toole.
What was your answer, Lee? The saint? Was that?
No, he's not a saint.
He's not a saint. Well, now, did this person live after the year 1000?
Yes, uh-huh.
And he lived prior to 1900?
He sure did.
And the Eastern Hemispheric type? Is there
well, partially that. Is partially associated with the Eastern Hemisphere and partially elsewhere.
He worked over here in this area, would you say, this hemisphere?
Yes, uh-huh.
And you know what country he came from, don't you?
I sure do. It tells me right here in the card.
Yeah, that's right. Is it continental Europe?
Yes, uh-huh.
And French or Italian?
And neither of those. Give you a no on that. Move over to Danny Thomas now.
Neither of those?
Not either, what'd you say?
Neither French nor Italian?
Neither one of those two, no.
And you have to be Spanish.
Not quite, no. You're warm, though. So, let's see, we're open for general questions.
Portuguese, I was
Portugal, right.
Well, that
Was an
I thought Danny was going to start off
explorer or
with
something
Lebanon.
like that, Lee?
Hmm?
Was an explorer?
He was an explorer, yes. How's our time?
Not
Yes,
Columbus, is it?
Not Columbus.
Magellan?
Magellan, you got
Good
it.
boy.
Ferdinand Magellan.
Yeah.
Good.
Very good. Well,
Very good.
Was he Portuguese?
It says right here, Portugal. I hope they're right.
Danny wants to make a Lebanese.
I
out of
know,
it.
no, I don't. No, I just had him pegged for a Spaniard, and if so, then he would have wound up being a Lebanese.
That's right.
Father, you want to
Very
tell
good,
us a little
very
bit
good.
about...
Yes, I would, because Magellan actually, Lee, is a name to conjure with in the naval circles. He was the first circumnavigator of the globe. Born in Portugal in a little town, but his father was the mayor of the town, and so he was educated in the court of Portugal, where he learned, amongst other things, astronomy and the nautical sciences, in which he showed much interest. Now, later on, he went to Spain, and there... The king outfitted him with 5 ships in order to find the Spice Islands. And after crossing the Atlantic and traveling down South America, Oh, there was mutiny, hardships, privations, and the crew rebelled, mutiny. But he found the straits which now bear his name, and he crossed through into the beautiful Pacific, which he himself named. And after a long journey, many months, he landed in the Philippines, and there he died in 1521. He was a man who was courageous, certainly, persevering, and he relied on God. He hitched his wagon to a star, as it were, because he used the stars of God to guide him. And perhaps you and I at night sometimes, as we look into the darkness of the night and see the stars, we should say, too, as I'm sure he often did, blessed be God.
Well, thank you very much, Father Murphy. Let's try subject number 2 now. This one's from Mrs. H.J. Abels of Lone Dell, Missouri, and the category, an object.
This object is the original Epistle of St. Jude.
All right, let's start this subject off with Tom O'Toole.
An object, Lee. Is this object a blessed object?
Not blessed. No, we'd have to give you a no on that, Tom, and move over here to Danny Thomas.
It's not blessed, but naturally everything we're asking and talking about here has to do with Catholicism and Christianity.
Well,
right?
yeah, there's a religious aspect.
Religious aspect
Yeah.
to it. Is it made of marble?
Not made of marble. No, we're going to give you a no on that and move over to Nellene Joyce now.
An object.
Let's see, this is a specific object, though.
Yes, it is. Uh-huh.
And is it perhaps still in existence today?
No, it's not, Nell.
Oh.
So we move over now to Dick Mehan.
It was manufactured.
At the original time, something happened to this object which would mean it's processed or manufactured along those lines. Boy, I hope I confused you with that
Yeah.
one.
Yes, you certainly did.
Can we put it in a particular spot, Lee?
Yes, you could tie it down a little bit.
And when it was there, was that in the biblical times?
Yes,
And that would be New Testament.
that's right.
Is there a particular person we associate with?
Yes, there is.
Would that be Christ?
Not Christ himself. 2 minutes to go. We're open now for general questioning. Anybody hop in.
Object.
Is it related to St. Jude in any way?
Yes, it is.
It's an object related to St. Jude.
Right.
Club?
No.
The club.
Connected with the martyrdom in
He
any
was
way?
clubbed
If it
Oh.
was
to
martyrdom.
death.
No, not connected
Is
with
it
the
connected
martyrdom.
with, do you generally see an image of St. Jude? Is there, I don't know, is there a flame or something?
No, that's not an object. The flame wouldn't be an object.
No, it's not what you see generally pictured with St. Jude.
The
Is
object.
it metal, St. Jude?
No,
No, what did he do when he...
Is it a statue of some
not a
kind?
statue.
I asked about the marble. Didn't he, with the snakes, he insisted upon a miracle?
Is this object got is it manufactured a counterpart, or is it?
Yes, there's something treated about it, or
Is it
processed.
mineral?
Is it paper in any way?
Yes, it is paper, or
Is
that
it,
type of thing.
Is it book?
Beg pardon?
You don't
Book
mean the
of St. Jude?
epistle.
That's the one. The original
Excellent.
Epistle of St. Jude is exactly what we're looking for.
Listen, I would like Father to explain to me why it isn't read even on his feast day, and why I can't find it in my Mass Missal.
Father.
Well, perhaps you might do something about that.
Well, I certainly shall. As soon as I get the hospital going. Go ahead.
There's an assignment for you, Father.
Well, really, there's very few people, I think, that know that St. Jude wrote an epistle. He, he's one of the 12 apostles. And amongst other things, besides being the brother of St. James, the Bishop of Jerusalem, he is a cousin of our Lord. Tremendous. He preached in Mesopotamia and in Palestine and Arabia. And I believe tradition tells us that it was in Beirut that he died as a martyr for Christ. We speak of originals, but I think most of the time originals you think of, maybe a costume or dress like the salons of Paris. But these things are copies. The original is gone. But certainly the message of St. Jude isn't gone. His epistle is vigorous and strong because he is attacking those who would destroy the faith. By their immoral lives, they didn't want to believe. And St. Jude insisted constantly. And so he is a man of strength and a martyr. Help of the hopeless, pray for us.
All right,
May I
thank
make
you.
an observation?
Yes,
I hate
Danny,
to
go
do
right ahead.
this. I know you want to play your game,
No, go ahead.
but it is true. According to history, St. Jude was martyred in Beirut. And isn't it strange that the people designated to perpetuate his name in the United States were born in Beirut and Lebanon? And the first shrine to St. Jude in the whole world was built and still stands in Lebanon. So the people who martyred him now give him perpetual life.
That's a tremendous thought, isn't it?
Wonderful.
It really is. Hey, your organization, ALSAC, is what, aiding?
That's Aiding Leukemia-Stricken American Children, American, Lebanese, Syrian Associated Charities.
Oh, it means both.
Yes.
I knew there was Lebanese, the word was in there somewhere. Wonderful. Well, let's try another subject here now. This one, incidentally, comes from East St. Louis, Illinois, from Mrs. Bud Dietrich at 706 North 69th Street over there. It's an event, and we're going to follow our usual practice, incidentally, on this one. We're not going to show you the answer in advance. Let's see if you can outwit the panel. Let's start off with Dick Mehan on this event.
Is this a specific event, Lee?
Sure is, Richard.
And it has occurred?
It has.
And we can place it within the space of 1 year's period of time?
Yes.
And did that occur in biblical times?
Not biblical times. No, we'll move over to Tom O'Toole.
Did it occur before 1932?
Yes, sir. Why pick that year?
That's a good year.
Okay.
Is it occur after 1000 A.D.?
Yes, sir.
Did it happen, did it occur after 1450?
Yes, it did.
Did it happen in the Western Hemisphere?
Right, uh-huh.
And an event. Is there a particular personality we might associate with this?
Yes, there is. Uh-huh.
And is that a man?
It's a man.
And was he, he's dead, let's see, was he clergyman?
Yes, he was.
And we connect the continental United States area?
No, we say
We
not
do not.
the continental United States area and move over to Danny Thomas now.
A clergyman.
Yes. Western Hemisphere, but not United States.
A Franciscan missionary.
No, he was not a Franciscan.
He was a missionary.
But not a Franciscan.
He was a missionary. I was thinking of Father Sarah.
No, you're
How about a Jesuit? Was he a Jesuit?
not a Jesuit. No.
Was it South America?
Not South America.
Was it North
Canada.
American continent we're talking about?
Not North American continent?
Central America.
No.
Juan Diego?
No.
Was he a brother rather than a priest?
No, he was a priest.
Well, do we know where this is? Is this Central America?
No, it's not.
It's not Canada.
It's not
Mexico?
Alaska?
It's not Mexico, not Alaska.
Not South America.
Was
There are
this
some
the
islands
South Pole or something?
Some island is correct, yes.
Some island.
in the West Indies or something.
No. How's our time?
Is this in the Western Hemisphere? And
You're
is
not thinking of Manhattan Island. And
No, ma'am.
is the island north of the equator?
Yes, it is.
Is the island off Canada somewhere?
Off Canada? No.
Is it in the Caribbean area?
No, it isn't. 1 minute to go.
Is it in the Atlantic side of the continent?
No, it isn't in the Atlantic
How
side.
How about Father Damien?
Father Damien.
Yes, this is the man we're looking for.
You want an event? His
Yeah.
death?
No.
His contraction of Hansen's disease? Is it?
No, that
he's
isn't.
working with the lepers.
Well, it's something more
Is
specific.
it his arrival at Molokai?
That's it. The arrival of Father Damien on Molokai, May 18th, 1873. Boy, they got in under the wire. on that one.
Excellent panel. Yes.
Well,
I
you
never
guys
could
are
play
good.
these games.
They've been practicing.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, the arrival of Father Damien in Molokai. You know, he was a young man named Joseph de Wooster, really, and it was at his profession in the Congregation of the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary that he took the name of Damien, who is really the physician saint whom we implore, whose intercession we implore during the Mass. And in 1864, really, he went over to the islands, and he volunteered for service in difficult cases, until finally he suggested that he would love to work with the outcasts of society, with the real untouchables, the scourgings of humanity, the people who had given up all hope, who lived really bestial lives, and they groveled grotesquely in the worship of the Hawaiian Venus known as Laka, and then were glad to die, because no one cared for them. Now, in 1873, in May, the bishop had built a church. Father Damien came, and he brought them hope, he built them homes, he nursed their wounds, and above all, he brought them Christ. This is the great, great man, tremendous man, really, who walked among the living dead and, by the way, contracted the disease himself. Tremendous. So, the next time someone poor and outcast comes to you, don't turn aside, because actually, he should represent Christ to you as the lepers did to Damien.
All right, thank you very much, Father Murphy. I want to take a moment now. I'm going to do something different today. Usually at this time, we explain, again, the rules of the game. You know, we have 5 kinds of subjects: objects, events, personalities, teachings, and practices. And usually at this time, we ask you to send your suggestions for such subjects to us at Quiz a Catholic, KMOX-TV, St. Louis, Missouri. And usually we tell you that you'll win a statue of Our Lady of Television if your subject is used on the program. We're not going to mention that today. Instead, we want to ask you, there's a photograph of the statue we're talking about. We're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about one thing, to reiterate Danny Thomas' suggestion that all of you might help individually with $1 for St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis, sent to Danny Thomas, Quiz a Catholic, KMOX-TV, St. Louis, Missouri.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Danny. Let's try a quickie, or maybe two here if we have time. This one comes from Mother Mary Cecilia. The address is 2120 Switzer Avenue in St. Louis. The category is personality, and who wants to start it off?
Personality.
Yeah.
Personality.
Right.
In our Lord's time?
Not in our Lord's time. Give you no
Specific person.
Yes, specific.
A human being now?
Yes.
Deceased.
Deceased.
A woman.
Yeah, a woman.
Saint?
Not a saint.
A layman? A lay woman, I mean.
Not a canonized saint anyway.
Is her cause proposed for
Is that correct?
canonization?
I think that she's considered a saint.
Considered a saint. I beg your pardon.
Is she dead more than 500 years?
Oh, yes.
Not biblical.
Yes.
She is biblical.
Uh-huh.
New
Saint
Testament.
Veronica.
No.
New Testament.
Not New
Related
Testament.
to Christ?
Oh,
No.
Old Testament.
Old Testament.
Old Testament.
She's considered a saint?
Eve?
She's considered a saint, but not a formally... What'd you say,
Eve? Eve?
You got it. They did it. Boy, these people...
All about
Got time
They're
for
too
another
quick.
one? Yeah. Oh, I think we've run out of time. I wish we had time for another subject here on Quiz a Catholic, but a clock on the wall has caught up with us once again. And did you have fun today, Father
Delightful,
Murphy?
delightful.
Well, it was our
Yes.
privilege and pleasure having you here. Hope you'll come back and see us again.
Thank you very much.
And we hope when you get back to St. Jude's Parish, you'll say hi to all the folks out there for us, including Danny Thomas.
Yes,
who knows
and I hope you'll do something about the epistle.
Well, I think you have more influence than I do.
No, I have a louder mouth. I think St. Jude's epistle should be read by all Christians. Read and digested. And I honestly believe that it is an insult to that great saint, an apostle and cousin of our Lord, and the only apostle who was related to him.
Well, his brother was.
His brother was, too. So that, I mean...
It's all in the family.
Jude
It's in the family.
The Thaddeus family. I think it's just awful that his epistle isn't read at least once a year, and especially on his feast day. It's bad enough he has to share his feast day with St. Simon.
There's a project. Next time Danny Thomas comes to town, maybe he can visit St. Jude's Parish in Maryland Heights and
And the reading.
reading the epistle, okay? Excuse me, I want to cut in for just a minute to say to our good friend Tom O'Toole, thank you very much for being with us
Really
today.
a pleasure.
A very special word of thanks to the gentleman sitting next to Tom, Mr. Danny Thomas. Danny, it was wonderful having you.
Thank you, Lee.
The best of continued good fortune to you in your own career and in the wonderful work you're doing for St. Jude's.
My career is doing fine. Let's work on St.
Okay,
Jude's.
St. Jude. Thanks, Danny. Thanks to you, Nellene, Joyce. Thanks to you, Dick Mehan.
Lee.
And about all we want to say again today is to reiterate that address. Send $1 for St. Jude's Hospital, Memphis, Tennessee. Just address it to Danny Thomas, Quiz a Catholic, KMOX-TV, St. Louis, Missouri. Bye now.
Quiz a Catholic is designed to lead men closer to God through a better understanding of things Catholic. This program is produced by the Catholic Radio and Television Apostolate of St. Louis in cooperation with the KMOX-TV Department of Public Affairs. Quiz a Catholic was directed by Bob Miller.